can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Think about it. Rugby league isn't really about tries and goals, is it? Not really. It's not about trophies. It's not even about winning. No, rugby league is about people. It's about experiences, friendship, adventures, memories. And it's true you cannot buy those things, but you can organize them. And that's what we've been doing here at Catalan Sport Tours since 2014. Whether it's a World Cup, Away to the Dragons, Las Vegas, Cup Finals, State of Origins, Paris or Dublin, we'll organize everything so you can focus on making memories. Because that's what rugby league's all about. Find us at catalansporttours.com.
Fans, it is Thursday the 11th of June. Welcome to the show. Good morning, League fans. That's what it's called. And also welcome to the Rugby League part of the week on this station, because some of you might have been listening from the music from the Hot Metal Radio part of the week. We switch over to Rugby League at 8 a.m. UK time every Thursday. It's a big weekend in Rugby League, of course. It's a split round in the NRL, which means a few stars missing from this morning's match between Souths and Brisbane, and also a really important game in Super League tonight, St Helens up against Warrington. We'll bring you all the team news, but our very special guest this hour is England women's coach Stuart Barrow, who answers a lot of pressing questions because the England women, their circumstances have changed heading into the World Cup at the end of the year. They are now able to pick an unlimited number of heritage players who can then switch back whenever they like. It's to make them a bit stronger. They conceded 90 points in Las Vegas. So to what extent will England avail themselves of that opportunity? That's the big question. So let's go through some birthdays. 44 today, Rennie Matua. Very decorated player. He played for Australia, played for Samoa, probably made his name for himself at Canterbury, but also represented Cronulla, Parramatta, Featherston, Salford, Lee, and Toronto. Who else have we got here with the birthday today? Samisoni Langi, who was a Tongan cum Frenchman. He was in the end he was able to play for France. He turns 33 today. Happy birthday to Samisoni Langi. And who else will we get? We might throw in Sam Wood, the centre from York, who is 29 today. Manoa Thompson, the father of Jared Hayne, 58 today. Manoa Thompson. And from the early days of rugby league in Australia, Benny Waring. It's his birthday today. He was born on this day in 1900 and died in 1968. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a break now. And we'll be back to set the scene for that South Sydney versus Brisbane game. And we'll also get ready to hear from Stuart Barrow. Okay, coming up in the hour after this program finishes, it's the NRL round kicking off, the split round. And it is South Sydney at home to the Brisbane Broncos with plenty of players missing because of Origin, something like 11 players missing because of Origin. It's 17 degrees at Homebush. The game's at Accor Stadium. And partly cloudy, not much chance of rain. And humidity is 85%. Let's go through the teams. For the Bunnies, Jai Gray, Alex Johnson, Latrell Sigwalt, Tallis Duncan, Edward Cosey, Cody Walker, captain, Ashton Ward. The forwards are Tavita Totola, Brandon Smith, Keon Kaloa Matangi, David Fafita, Ewan Aitken, Lachlan Hubner, and the bench from a cast of Bronson Garlick, Jamie Humphries, Jaden Sullivan, John Raddell, Dane Jennings, and Liam LeBlanc, with Matt Duffy and on standby there. And for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, for the Brisbane Broncos, apologies. Hayes Perham, Josiah Karapani, Antonio Verhoeven, Grant Anderson, Jesse Arthurs, Thomas Duffy, Adam Reynolds, captain. Forwards, Preston Ricky, Corey Pakes, Jack Gazetsky, Brendan Piakura, Jordan Ricky, Xavier Russell, and the reserves from a cast of Ben Hunt, Ben Talty, Ablix Tawa, Ezra Mam, Josh Rogers, and Jaden Hunt, with Philip Coates, the emergency. Our referee is Grant Atkins, and the video referee is Ashley Klein. And currently, the South Sydney Rabbitohs are 8th on the table, 8 wins and 6 losses. And for the premiers, the Brisbane Broncos, struggling, they are lying in 12th. They have 5 wins and 8 losses. So that game coming up in the hour after the program, and we might have our friend Josiah giving us some score updates. Not confirmed yet. But anyway, coming up soon in the show, it is England women's coach Stuart Barrow. Meanwhile, the Super League round kicks off tonight at the Brewdog Stadium, which is at St Helens. The stadium's changed their names a fair bit. That used to be the Totally Wicked Stadium. And obviously the teams aren't out yet because it's hours away, the game. But it is a super important match. Warrington have kind of snuck up on everyone, haven't they? They're second place on the table. They have 10 wins and just 2 losses. And they visit St Helens, who are also going okay, beaten last week, but they're in 4th position, 9 wins and 4 losses. So that is one of the only games this weekend we don't have here on rugbyleague.com. We've got 5 broadcast Super League games this weekend. Might be a good time to go through those. Friday night, we've got Toulouse up against the Rhinos, Leeds, and that is Jason Costigan in the chair, 6 o'clock UK time, straight into the Hull KR versus York game, which is at Seal Group Craven Park. And Matt Horton will be doing the honours there. And then Matt Horton will be back on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, for Hull FC and the Giants of Huddersfield. And then after that game, once more, Jason Costigan is calling the Catalans v Castleford match from Stade Gilbert Brutus. That's a 6 o'clock kickoff on Saturday night in the UK, if you're in the UK. And finally, the standalone game on Sunday, which I'll be attending, but I won't be calling because when you've got a genius like Mick Gledhill on the job, who needs me? It's 3 o'clock kickoff, Bradford and Lee. All those games coming up live this weekend on rugbyleague.com, where too much league isn't enough. So we all know that England women have struggled a little bit on the international level, well, at least playing Southern Hemisphere opposition. They dominate Northern Hemisphere opposition in recent years, but they did concede 90 points in Las Vegas, and they did fail to make the final of the last World Cup. And the organisers of this year's World Cup in Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea have opened up the tiering. They've basically removed tiering from the women's game, and that means that you can switch between England, New Zealand and Australia freely on a yearly basis, and it was clearly aimed to strengthen England. But the question is, how much will England take up that opportunity to strengthen themselves? How many heritage players who are maybe born in Australia, how many will they pick, and how will they balance their squad? What will their philosophy be? And that is where we started talking to the England women's coach, Stuart Barrow.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult situation because we're separate to the Pacific Islands and the Southern Hemisphere, as in we have our own domestic competition And we also run a really successful pathways that are emerging for the last 4 or 5 years. We've run the under 15, 16 skills hubs and the DICE program, our 2-year 16 to 18-year-old program, and that's starting to produce players for Super League and also for the England national team as well. So when we played Wales last year, I think we had 8 DICE graduates in that. So what I've got to be careful is like you say, is the balance, is getting the balance right, that we don't block the pathways or show, that we're only looking at Australians because the NRLW is a strong competition, and obviously we're then going to fill England with all of that and then discredit our own competition and our own pathways. So it is a balance. So it is about getting the numbers right. But also on the other hand, we've got to make ourselves competitive and we've got to be as strong as we could possibly be going into a World Cup.
It's Good Morning League fans on rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. And the next thing I asked the England women's coach Stuart Barrow about was the commitment he would require from any heritage players who might want to represent England in the World Cup at the end of the year, because as we've discussed already during this morning's show, there are pretty much no restrictions on when players can switch back to maybe Australia, for instance, after the tournament. And I guess he could fill the team, or largely, with players whose parents were born in the UK, or indeed grandparents. But then what happens after the tournament? So here's what Stuart had to say on that.
And that's the difference compared to the men's game. So, if a heritage player is deciding to choose to play for England men, that means they're making a commitment to England men. Whereas, obviously, with the rule change now, if someone commits to England women, they can then play for Australia next year or the year after and in the build-up to the next World Cup. So when we talk about balance, I've got to try and find out what the long-term commitment is. So if I'm not taking someone who's come through the pathway, a young girl who might be needing this World Cup for experience for the 2030 World Cup in 4 years' time, that pathway isn't being blocked by someone who only wants to use us as a stopgap to try and get into Australia.
The 2026 Women's Magic Round in the NRL, the NRLW, that is going to happen on the 1st of August and the 2nd of August, and it's going to be in Wagga Wagga. The name of the stadium it's called GeoHex Park now, and an interested observer will be Stuart Barrow, the coach of England, who hopes to talk to some interested players and check out the form of players. So we asked Stuart to outline his plans when he's in Australia, and also just on the timetable for squad announcements in the build-up to the World Cup at the end of the year.
The NRL have been really helpful and supportive, so they know I'm coming over. So they're accommodating me in the stadium for that day. And I'm looking to meet. I understand that some players will have to go straight after their games, but some are going to hang around and have a chat with me. And then I'm in Sydney for a couple of days, so I'll be meeting people in Sydney. And then when I go up to do the recce for Wollongong for our facilities for the World Cup, I'm meeting a couple of people over there as well. No, so to put that bluntly, so we've got a mid-season international against France on July the 25th. Yeah. So a squad will be training for that on July the 18th, a 19-player squad, and that will be a mixture of what we need to have a look at for the World Cup. Also, some players the best players on form as well, but we'll have one eye on a World Cup squad. Then for the World Cup, we'll wait until the day after the Women's Grand Final. And we will then announce our 24-player squad for the World Cup.
How will England decide how many heritage players to pick for the World Cup in their women's team? Well, I thought it was very interesting for Stuart to explain, even though he is the head of pathways in Women's Rugby League in England, he had to put in a paper to the board, and then the board will actually come back, that's the RFL board, will come back with a written policy on the issue. He explains it here.
Obviously, because of the rule change, it's quite unique. So we didn't have a policy at the RFL, or the RFL didn't have a policy for this. So the board have had a meeting, and they're now just perusing over a couple of papers that have been wrote to them about it, and they will come up with hopefully a policy decision, so that I can be governed by that as the head coach. So but I think ultimately it'll come down to me and my staff of what we want in that squad. Just recommendations by the performance department, which I'm part of, and just an explanation of what the rule changes actually mean and where we currently are, etc. And then we'll discuss, the board will discuss that level and then come up with hopefully just a guideline policy for how many heritage players or what we're looking to do.
I think what's interesting here is that the tiering rules were changed to help England, but England don't necessarily 100% want that sort of help, or they certainly aren't embracing it to the full extent because they've got their own concerns about their own domestic competition. And the same goes for the changes of the rules around the matches at the World Cup, which will only be played over 70 minutes. And I think, which is the rule in the NRLW. And I guess the assumption in Australia was that England would appreciate that rule change because, it stops the score clocking up and going up like it did although Las Vegas was only 70 minutes. Why would they want another 10 minutes? Well, they would have conceded 100. But that might be the Australian thinking. If you listen to Stuart Barrow, it's not necessarily the English thinking.
Again, that's an NRL thing pushed through. We're comfortable with 80 minutes in England. We play all our domestic rugby at 80 minutes. Previously, international rules were always 80 minutes. We feel and we've done research on this, that the drop-off on the last 5 minutes of each half, percentage-wise, mirrors the same as the men. So we don't feel we're physically less able to do the 80 minutes than the male game. And I'm slightly against it because it makes us different. I think if you look at rugby union, football, etc., the female game plays the same duration as the male. So I'm all for changing rules if they improve the game. But for me, I'm comfortable with 80 minutes. But obviously now we have to adapt for the World Cup. And that may change slight selections. It may change what you do on your bench selection for a game. But yeah, so we'll just have to adapt to that. So we'll probably look at playing 70 minutes against France in the mid-season international, just so we can get a feel for it as staff as well as players. It's the full NRLW rules, and NRL rules. So we've got a couple of people in our squad who can take drop goals. So there'll be something we'll be looking at and practicing, and when and where we use that. So it's all just very subtle changes, but not too much really to affect what we're doing.
You're on rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough, and this is our breakfast show. Good morning, league fans. My name is Steve Mascord, and we are speaking to the England women's rugby league coach, Stuart Barrow. And I asked Stuart what success would look like at this year's World Cup.
I think previously we would have always said it's to get to the finals, and and that still is our belief. We want to go out there and get to a final, but the landscape of the women's game's changed dramatically over the last few years with the NRLW competition, and the Pacific nations. So we know we're under no illusion. We've got a real tough group to get out of the group. So first and foremost, we've got to get out of the group, and then when we get to the semi-final stage, then I think we're all on. Then we'll be really confident in the group that we take. That will be competitive once we get to that semi-final stage to hopefully be promoted to get to a final. It's with it. You want to have the strongest the team you can take and put out there and be competitive. We all want that, but you've also got to protect the game and the pathways going forward. We're a long way from Australia over here in England, so we've got to make sure that our competition is thriving and we're developing players for that competition. And ultimately, people start on the journey in any sport because they want to play international rugby. They want to get to or international represent their country. So we don't want to put blocks in that, but we also want to, if people genuinely want to play for their heritage and are committed, then I'm very keen to speak to them and make sure that we give them that opportunity as well.
England men don't have any mid-season internationals to prepare for the World Cup, but the women do. So Stuart Barrow has gone through those preparations with us and filled us in on the timing of various squad announcements. There was a train-on squad announced in January.
I think it's really important because as the embryonic stage and of where the women's international game is and growing, it's important that we still have internationals every year to bring people into that environment and to show them what international rugby is about. I don't think we would cope going to a major tournament if we hadn't had international experience before that. So Yeah, so I think it's vital for us, and I think the relationship we're building with France is really good, and France are getting better year on year, and the competition out there is getting better, and we now do that on twofold. We take our dice girls out there as well to play a Catalan team, and this year we're playing a French representative under-19s team as well. So we're helping each other and developing because of the distance to the Southern Hemisphere. Like you say, with budgets, etc., it's very hard to get a game on that. I know there's talk of one of the big teams coming over to play the men next year, and hopefully we can bring a women's team to do that as well. But that's I don't know where that is at. That's not for me to worry about at this stage, but that would be the ideal, that whenever a men's touring team came over, that the women's team would join them as well.
So as I mentioned at the top of the show, England heavily beaten in Las Vegas a couple of years ago and didn't make the final in the last World Cup. So I asked their coach, Stuart Barrow, I want to thank him for his time, about what will be different this time around, both in terms of Vegas and when they play Australia, and also in terms of the last World Cup and hopefully progressing from their point of view a bit further.
I think for me there's a big difference compared to the last one. I think there was 2 or 3 teams competing in the Women's World Cup. The last one, I think this time I think everyone will be reasonably competitive. I think we've got Samoa in our group, who I think are going to be a really, really difficult challenge. So I think the competition will be far closer. Obviously Australia are clear favourites, and rightly so, world champions, etc. But that's the benchmark that everyone's aiming for, and that's who everyone wants to knock off. So yeah, I think it'll be better. I think over there, I think the crowds will be bigger than what they were here for the women's game. I think you saw that in the women's state of origin. Yeah. They've really bought into it over there. So I expect whenever whichever stadium you go and play at, I expect a healthy crowd. So that'll be something that the girls will thrive on. I think, that's all our girls want is recognition. So to go over there and see big crowds, I think it'll be great for them. I think Vegas was a massive shock to all of us, the staff and the girls. So as a group, and I think the learnings from it are about resilience and staying in. I think we had a team there full of players from the top 4. Probably had never gone behind previously on the score sheet more than 20 points. And once that happened, it caused a lot of upset within the team on the pitch, and so I think there's a different mentality to that now, and I think we've worked hard on mentality and resilience and toughness and how to get into an arm wrestle. And the squad will be different because it's evolved since then. You've seen the emergence of a lot of the young players come through who didn't play in Vegas, who may be in contention for the World Cup now, who haven't been scarred by that. And those that have been scarred by it obviously want to go out there and put things right as well. So it's a nice blend to have. Of course, we've got to be better than we were in Vegas. We know that. But until you're exposed to that, you don't know what you don't know. And now we do.
Joining me from the Midlands of England here on rugbyleague.com is former first grader back in Australia and also over here in Europe, and Australian schoolboys representative Troy Perkins. Tell the listeners what you're up to now.
Yeah, mate, Rugby Discounts is what it's called. It specialising in all the latest NRL kit from Australia, whether it's jerseys, training T-shirts, training vests, training shorts, hoodies, most clubs are available. You can get me on www.rugbydiscounts.net. I've also got a Facebook page, Rugby Discounts, so very active on that, and Instagram as well. So best prices and the great quality NRL gear that is very difficult to get in the UK.
The Rugby League Coach podcast is hosted by me, Lee Addison. I'm a former coach at NRL clubs, a couple of World Cups. You may remember the USA shocking the world in 2013. That's one of them. I also coached Poland to an Emerging Nations World Cup and helped Ireland a few years ago too. I've also worked at 3 elite high schools in England, and I like to offer my coaching services for free on this podcast. It's a Rugby League Coach podcast, and you can get to it through rugbyleague.com, the world's first 24-hour online rugby league radio station. That's a Rugby League Coach podcast with me, Lee Addison.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.